Professor Dilip Mohite, former Dean, Faculty of Arts, MS University, Baroda, Vadodara, Gujarat, will deliver the keynote address. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for your generous introduction. And thank you, Professor Vijay Khare, for inviting me and to give a keynote address on the subject which is alien to me. Anyway, I have tried my best to do the justice, but if I fall short of some, your expectations, then I tender my apology right from the beginning. My esteemed colleagues on the stage, they are not only colleagues, but they are also good friends over a period of more than 20, 15, 20 years, 25 years. And my association with this university, the Grand University of Pune, has been more than of 25 years. I've been coming here on different programs, lecturing at the DDSS regularly, almost twice in a year. And the satisfaction that I have derived from my narratives, sometimes 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and the response of the students has been overwhelming, and that has given me strength and confidence to go on even at the age of 85 plus. Sometimes people ask, are you able to travel? Are you able to deliver lectures? Then I said that, look, I have a spirit and confidence given by the students to whom I talk. And my colleagues also, they have encouraged me, they have supported me, they have appreciated me, and that is actually the factor which gives me enormous strength and confidence. I must confess that my forte is international relations, and last couple of weeks I have been vigorously preparing on the existing world order, which is turbulent, unpredictable, and so confusing that it is a challenge to the experts of international relations, to teachers of international relations, and also to the students to find out where we are heading. Anyway, so that particular preparation I was making in order to make the best of my presentations. But then, as the luck would have it, the director, Professor Vijay Khare, he acted like a station master. You know, the duty of the station master is to get the train on the right track and the right platform. He changed the track, and instead of, me talking on international relations or the present world order, he drove me back to about more than 100 years of Indian independence and the role of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel to the nation building and the security of India. I tried my best within a short spell of about 15 days or 20 days. I was able to grab about 10 to 12 books in my own collection, and whatever I could conclude or surmise about the role of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and his contribution to nationalism, creating a nationalism supporting national spirit and the security of India, let me confess one thing, that after whatever time I got, whatever rigorous reading that I could do, rapid reading, rapid thinking, and rapid conclusions, Sardar Patel undoubtedly played a very important role, but it was a trio. The trio of Sardar Patel, Nehru, and Lord Mountbatten. They acted in tandem. They decided a kind of a policy. They also landed on certain ideas. So policies, and they worked out the program, and that program was nation building, solidarity of the nation, and then here I would like to quote Tim Marshall. He writes in his book about the prisoner of history and the prisoner of geography, that most of the countries, and particularly India, had become a prisoner of history and also prisoner of geography. Now, it's a long kind of a concept, very deep concept, and one requires a detailed elaboration. But I will only say one thing, that in order to understand the kind of problems, the hurdles, the obstacles that was seen by the history of India of the last 1,000 years, one would conclude that we were the prisoners of history. Long back, when Alexander attacked India, Chandragupta Maurya, prior to that, there was only one man, Chanakya, who went around all the northern states and asked them to unite and provide a combined front to Alexander's forces. But to our misfortune, none of the other states came to the help of Chandragupta Maurya. With the result, Chandragupta lost. And this particular phenomena I am quoting because it is repeatedly happening in the history of India. The people, the invaders who could cross Khyber Pass became the masters of India. Those who could sail through Arabian Ocean, they became masters of, South India. I went to Madurai, the Pandyan Empire. I went to Hampi civilization, and it was something unbelievable. Unbelievable to my eyes and to my mind and to my heart. How could such a rich civilization could be created, and stones as big as probably 1/4 of this room were lifted, and they built certain, houses, palaces, swimming pools. But then a band of about 4,500 invaders came through the seas and destroyed that civilization. In the similar way, civilization in the north was destroyed. I come to the prisoner of history. India was sharply divided into south and north. What was happening in the north was not the concern of any southern states, southern princes. And what happened in the south was not the concern of the northern states. This was the situation. So the invaders came, they picked up the states, princely states, one by one, defeated them, and then the advent of Islam in this country. We live in a globalized world. We live in a multicultural society. And therefore, today to talk about Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or a Buddhist or any other religions would not be appreciated and would not fit into the present context in the globalized world. And therefore, I jump from the period which probably was called ancient, the medieval period, and whosoever captured Delhi became the emperor of this country. Now, here I would like to explain one very important thing. We lost the first battle of Panipat, second battle of Panipat, third battle of Panipat, three solid wars. And then the cause of given for the defeat of the in the third battle of Panipat of the Marathas, I was in Vienna and there was a couple sitting next to me. The madam there, she wanted cigarettes very badly. In those days, I used to smoke also, occasionally. So she asked the waiter, then he said that, no, I can't go out and buy you a cigarette. So I said, I have a packet, would you like to borrow? And she happily took it and I started talking. The person was none other than Shyam Benegal. He had made a movie called Discovery of India. Beautiful movie, a documentary, long documentary. Then I asked him that why, as the history, the historians say, the Marathas were used to guerrilla warfare. Why did they enter into a pitched battle with Ahmad Shah Abdali? So that particular question was actually lingering in my mind for a very long time. So I asked him, and he gave a really satisfying answer. He said, for the supremacy of India, the pitched battle to be fought at a particular point was very important. So though the Marathas could have probably used their guerrilla tactics, not allowing Abdali to cross Jamna, not allowing him to settle down, they had to have a pitched battle with Ahmad Shah Abdali, and that is for the supremacy of India. Now here, as we move further, the Marathas were the only power which fought against Ahmad Shah Abdali, against the combined forces of Muslim countries. Lucknow, Nawab of Bhopal and Najibuddin of Rohila, they all combined together, and finally the Marathas were defeated. Of course, they had their own faults also, strategic miscalculations. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the details of that history, but what I derive from this is that there was no national spirit per se existing in India. That this is my nation, whether you call it a Hindu nation or any other nation, but there was nothing, or common culture. The common culture was there. Still, politically, we were not united, and the result was the enslavement of this country for almost 1,000 years. The Britishers came, and the only Maratha power which was existing was defeated one by one. And see the fun. Neither the Peshwa, neither the Scindias of Gwalior or the Holkars of Indore, they put up a combined fight against the Britishers. V.V. Joshi, a very nice book, simply, very straight, full language, The Clash of Three Empires. I read it and I found that there was no nationalism. Yesterday we were over the dinner, we were discussing, we jumped on the discussion while eating, and my esteemed colleague, Professor Sheshadri Chari, I made a statement that in 1947, when we became independent, it was Mao who had an eye on India to see that India turns communist, because the whole, stage was ideally suited for the communist revolution in India. Poverty, unemployment, uneven distribution of land, fertile land. 80% fertile land was owned by the zamindars or the princely rajas, and 20% fertile land was actually with the farmers, the real farmers, the fertile land. Rest of the 80% unfertile land was with the farmers, and they could not do anything. Now, this was the situation where at the time of independence, we had to salvage this particular country, this particular society, liberate it from the old values. And there was no nationalism whatsoever. Here where I again go back to 1885, when the first institution was created, Indian National Congress. And this particular organization, where we found the people from all quarters of life. Some came from poor families, some came from middle class families, some came from rich families. None of the princes, mind you. But it was a people's organization, and it continued to fight for the freedom gradually, bit by bit. And that this particular movement, prior to that, 1857, what we call it the First War of Independence, where some sort of a nationalism, a streak was observed. But then, I would like to make little out of the context, a point that in post 1857, there was some sort of a Hindu nationalism that erupted. Hindu nationalism. And that particular nationalism, without equivocal announcement, but their target was that we have to fight British and throw them out of this country. And believe me, I call it a Pune school of thought. Pune school of thought. Take the leaders who took a prime role, who played a prime role in the 1857, all Maharashtrian Brahmins. Nanasaheb Peshwa, Tatya Tope, Rani Lakshmibai. And then thereafter came the people like Savarkar and few others who established Hindu Mahasabha, RSS, and they actually conveyed the message that this country is that of Hindus, and Hindu Raj will come, and they were actually a stream which actually joined, and it was called the moderates and the extremists. There was another group, Subhash Chandra Bose. But then, after Tilak and Gokhale, the baton of independence movement was handed over to Mahatma Gandhi. Now, Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy was for a common man, for you or me, satyagraha, non-violence. Now, non-violence and satyagraha, after his successful agitation in South Africa, he came to India, and Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, handed over the baton to him and said, now you continue. And Mahatma Gandhi had very clear ideas of non-violent and satyagraha as a tool, as a strategy to achieve independence. Now, this particular movement was indirectly supported by the British rule also. The Britishers were busy with the First and the Second World War. Their security forces were busy fighting the war, the big war, and therefore, to control a non-violent movement with the police force, limited police force, was comparatively rather easy. But then, the acceptance of non-violence and satyagraha, it suited the British, it suited Mahatma Gandhi, and it also suited the Indian National Congress. So a new kind of a strategy, new kind of movement to achieve independence, and also creating an all India notion of nationalism was conveyed, and everybody followed it, the national spirit. Then number of agitations like Sardar Patel, impressed by Mahatma Gandhi's movement, his principles, his philosophy, he joined Mahatma Gandhi and the freedom movement. Now his joining, his background, one agitation in Kheda district, that is Nadia Anand region, and the second one was Bardoli Satyagraha. He led that particular agitation, farmers' agitation against the British, and from there onwards he was called the Sardar Patel, the leader. Now Sardar Patel had a unique background. He came from a very aristocratic, rich farmers' family, went to England, did his bar at law, came back, and probably would have started a roaring practice, but he gave up everything. He was suited and booted when he came to India. When he saw Gandhi half naked with the khadi, he burnt his Western clothes, Western attire, attitude, and then he changed over to khadi and dhoti. Now this is called, what you may call it, a devotion and deviation from the rich life, the affluent life, where probably he joined the freedom movement as one of the pioneers and a strong man in the Indian National Congress. Now his role is much more discussed prominently soon after the independence. What we got in the platter, it was a terrible thing. Those who have read the book called Freedom at Midnight, fantastic book, and the other book by The Train to Pakistan by the former editor of Illustrated Weekly, Guru, what is his name? Guru, Train to Pakistan? Khushwant Singh. I have that book, but I forgot the name in Khushwant Singh. Now, if you see that, if you read that book, the eye account of what happened was something terrible, shocking, would bring tears to your eyes. Now, in this particular situation, there was a teamwork, and here I would like to present you with a I would say funny analogy of a 2020 cricket match. The trio, the book is here with Professor Mohanan. In that he said that there was a trio acting in tandem. Nehru was a philosophical, his ideas of socialism, Fabian socialism, his interaction with Einstein, his interaction with Bertrand Russell. So he was a kind of having a philosophical mind, and philosophically he was a rational individual, not believing in something crude actions or drastic actions. That was his mental makeup. But then that was not enough. Sardar Patel, being a deputy prime minister and a home minister, was a man of action. So I use the word policy and program, ideas and practice. So ideas were created that what kind of a India is going to be. And to put them into practice, the best man that was available was Sardar Patel. He was the best executioner. If you read V.P. Menon's book, Integration of India, you will find V.P. Menon praising his administrative, decision making, and the action part of it, which was very much needed in those tumultuous days soon after the freedom. Now, Sardar Patel was not a student of history, but he had known history in a very, very practical manner. When India became independent, the kind of problems that came up, the migration of people from Pakistan to India and from India to Pakistan, that's where I said Khushwant Singh book, Train to Pakistan, and Freedom at Midnight. What happened was that there was a tremendous breakdown of law and order. And the responsibility of maintaining law and order was primarily on the Home Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. But Nehru as a Prime Minister, Sardar Patel as a Deputy Prime Minister and a Home Minister, and Mountbatten as the Governor General, all were helpless. At that particular point, Nehru as a Prime Minister asked Mountbatten to take over. Now, take over did not mean, it was misinterpreted by many pseudo scholars. He wanted to give back India to the British. No, it was not that. As a Governor General, he wanted Governor General to take over and establish law and order situation in the country. Like what we have today in the constitutional provision, that when the emergency arises, if the state government fails to behave in the manner in which the constitution has written down, then the president's rule is established. So in the similar way, that particular provision was existing, and thereby, and then the issue of integration of the state. Now, integration of state means unity of this particular country. And that's the only way, just the only way by which India would survive and become strong and unified. Now, in this process, the hurdle came from the princely states. I divided into A and B category. A category, which was a serious military threat to India's unity. Nizam of Hyderabad, Nawab of Junagadh, and to some extent Bhopal, Nawab of Bhopal. They started, a kind of a movement. Jinnah gave them the temptation of joining Pakistan, and they almost thought of joining Pakistan, and openly they declared, Junagadh declared openly, and Hyderabad also declared openly. The Nizam of Hyderabad entered into negotiations with some European countries, Portugal and France in particular, to provide automatic and the latest weapons to fight the Indian army, Indian forces. While this was going on, their Prime Minister, Nizam's Prime Minister, gave a free rope to Razakars. You heard about the Razakars. And then almost about more than 500,000 Hindus were slaughtered. At this particular point, the trio of Sardar Patel, Nehru and Mountbatten decided that there is no way out but to take a police action before even Pakistan could provide some sort of a military help or a political kind of a support to Hyderabad. The police action was taken, and within 10 days, Hyderabad was relieved and Hyderabad joined the part of India. Now here, the issue was that Pakistan said that, look at the instrument of accession. What Britishers said, if the ruler decides to join India or Pakistan, he is free to do that. So Nizam of Hyderabad used that particular instrument and decided to join Pakistan. So Jinnah said that, look, Hyderabad is going to be our territory. Junagadh is going to be our territory. Junagadh and few small states around Junagadh. And Bhopal also was toying with the idea of joining Pakistan. Some parleys were going on between Bhopal, Nawab of Bhopal and Jinnah. And Jinnah was very happy that he would create a kind of a cancerous growth within the Indian subcontinent. Now this particular decision, Junagadh decision, again the military action was taken. Nawab fled to Pakistan. Now I can't go into the details because it's a long history. And plus I have a limited reading on this because just last 15, 20 days, whatever that I have read with some medical issues arising in the family. I put down this particular point that the idea of inviting Hyderabad, Junagadh, Bhopal, and to some extent Travancore also. Now this would have created a kind of a history which existed before. And then the three players, like I told you, that 2020, the two players go on the field. One is a hitter. He hits out sixes and the fours. That was Sardar Patel. Nehru was the other batsman holding the wicket, and Mountbatten was the kind of a ideologue who said that this particular country can survive as independent India only if it is completely united. Otherwise, it will be a repetition of history. That's what I said, the prisoner of history. We were prisoners of history earlier. So this three trio, the major leaders, they wanted to liberate India from the prison of history. That is what happened. Then the issue of Kashmir, which is very much discussed for the last, I would say, 70 years. Maharaja Hari Singh of Kashmir was wavering, and he wanted to remain independent Kashmir. Now, the story was reverse. Junagadh Nawab was Muslim leader and the majority of them were Hindus. Hyderabad was a Muslim leader and the majority were Hindus. Bhopal was, not very that strong, enough to say that we want to join Pakistan. But there were some secret parleys going on between Jinnah and the Nawab of Bhopal. But I will touch only Kashmir at the moment. You probably know the story about Kashmir. When he decided to remain independent, Sardar Patel and Nehru were very clear, and also legally they were looking at the issue that how Kashmir could become legally part of India. The raiders were supported by the Pakistan army, the Pathan raiders. They marched into India, and then finally, when they were near the vicinity of Srinagar, at that particular moment, V.P. Menon made several trips to Maharaja of Kashmir, Hari Singh, and said that, look, if you want to survive, otherwise you will be completely eliminated as a state and as a Maharaja. So what are you going to do? So finally, when he found no way out, he signed the instrument of accession, and Sardar Patel's representative V.P. Menon, you should read that book, Integration of Indian States. You should also, if you want more information, Raju G.C. Thomas on Kashmir. And there are several books which have come out from Pakistan and Kashmir also. Now, the issue is that if this particular decision, Sardar Patel was bar at law, and he knew that a forceful accession of Kashmir would lead to many complications. And therefore, he asked V.P. Menon that the Maharaja must sign the instrument of accession before, because prior to that, Maharaja had asked for a military support from India. So Sardar Patel, Nehru, and to some extent Mountbatten, they said, no, we cannot give you military support unless and until you become part of India. Now, this was a complete kind of a poker game which was played by the trio. VP Menon went, got the instrument of accession signed, and then what happened is a history which is lingering for the last 70, 75 years. Of course, there were a couple of issues that if Sardar Patel was the Prime Minister, the whole Kashmir would have been ours. Well, it's not true. The Indian commander who went up to a point throwing the Pathans out of Pathani rebels out of Kashmir and occupied almost 3/4 of the Kashmir, at that particular point, he sent a message to Delhi saying that, look, our troops are tired. One full company was eliminated in the war by the Pathans, and he sent the word that we have logistic problem, and the army officers sitting here, they know what is logistic, the regular supply of food, ammunition, and the accessibility to the point where the army is holding that particular position. He sent a word that we can't, because Pakistan are sitting on the top, climbing. It is a kind of a story which occurred in Kargil war. Climbing, but Kargil was a different story because we were fully prepared with the latest weapons, use of Air Force, armor, etc. But that time it was not possible. That was one particular issue. The second issue was that there was a meeting, there was a complete pressure, tremendous pressure from the British government on Mountbatten that you must ask for a ceasefire. And immediately asked the British officers who were on both sides to withdraw and make them completely, neutral in the war between India and Pakistan. So there was a tremendous pressure. And at the same time, let me tell you that Patel, Nehru, and other leaders had a harmonious relationship with the British government. I'm not quoting at least statement in the British Parliament where he appreciated the role of Indian Army, appreciated the role of Indian leaders who supported and gave the okay signal for Indian Army to participate in the First and the Second World War. I won't go into the details here, but then making it short, the meeting took place in Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's house. P.C. Das and Srinivasan Raghavan. These are the two books I read, and I got whatever information that I'm presenting before you. And then that meeting, it was decided to go to the United Nations. Now, today we feel that it was a wrong decision. Maybe in those days also it could have been a right or wrong decision because Indian Army was not in a position to move further. Now here, Sardar Patel also agreed to go to the United Nations, and I have got his recorded tape, which he gave in Kolkata after 3 days, that we have agreed to go to the United Nations unanimously in a meeting which was also attended by Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. Now, this is the situation in which the integration of states was carried out, and today, if India is strong enough and looking forward to establish its identity as a great power, I would say the base was prepared by the trio, less Mountbatten, but more by Patel, Sardar Patel and Nehru. Ultimately, today India ranks among one of the top great powers. It has become an important power in Asia and could be also financially and militarily, politically in the world. So United India has now different geopolitical, geoeconomic, and strategic identity. So when you go to the armed forces and we talk to them, and they said, no. I met General Oberoi a couple of times, and he said he's a Punjabi, but speaks fluent Marathi, and he says that I belong to this particular regiment in such a way that it's my life and death. So that particular secular outlook, which probably the armed forces possess today, thanks to the kind of a provision and the unity that was provided, the strength that was provided in 1947-48 by the Indian Army. If Indian Army was not there, there could have been a rebellion. If Indian Army was weak, then there could have been a rebellion, because each state, Nizam had a very good force of almost about 30,000 troops. Baroda had a force of about 20,000 force with some reserves. Gwalior had a very good powerful force. Indore had a very powerful force. Now all this together would have created a kind of a revolution or a rebellion, and but for Indian armed forces, the existence of strong Indian army in those days, it remained a kind of a history. And from that perspective, I would say that Sardar Patel was not only a deputy prime minister or home minister, but the best executioner of the policies, which I said ideas and practice, policies and programs. So he was largely responsible for carrying out the action part of it. And that is what my particular statement which I am making is supported by V.P. Menon in his book, Integration of Indian States. Here I would like to stop. It's already 12:20, though I was given only 20-30 minutes, but I have taken more. Let me confess, this is not my cup of tea. I like Indian history, but long back, almost about 30 years back, I used to teach Indian government and politics. I used to read Indian history, but my expertise on this particular subject is not that commendable where I could give a keynote address, but I've tried my best and tried to fulfill my duty as a keynote speaker. Thank you, Professor Vijay Khare, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you all for having a patient listening to my very immature keynote address. Thank you very much, and best of luck.